Hi, it's time for Street Talk, your voice and your views on the issues in the news. There's been a pardon for the British teacher who allowed her students in Sudan to name a teddy bear Mohammed. Gillian Gibbons was released from prison after the Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir granted the pardon. Gibbons had been found guilty of insulting the Islamic religion and inciting hatred for naming the toy after the revered Prophet Muhammad. She had initially been sentenced to 15 days in jail, but has now been relocated to the British Embassy in Khartoum. Patrick in Canada sympathises with Ms. Gibbons for the ordeal she has faced. This lady is owed a profound apology and recompense for the trauma she has almost certainly undergone. I doubt very much that either is forthcoming. Melissa in Cape Town blames local journalists for the large protests that have taken place in response to the incident. It is the fault of the media in that region who have blown the incident out of proportion and have led many civilians to take to the streets because of the powerful message that their media sends to them every time a foreigner makes a mistake in their country. Patricia in Scotland says it was all handled improperly. This case should have been dealt with by the school principal and should never have gone beyond the school gates. This is a typical example of the rampant ignorance that exists among Muslims today. Not all Muslims, Patricia. Now to our Street Talk segment, Punchlines, where we look at some of the best cartoons from around the world. Matt Worker's with us for that. He's the editorial cartoonist based with the DC-based Politico.com. This is what we had a look at. Well, Matt, it's always good to have you here.
Hi, Riz.
And of course, the Middle East Peace Talks in Annapolis gave us plenty of material.
Cartoonists love big peace conferences and whatnot. The first cartoon we have here is from Bob Engelhardt from Connecticut, who it's also a good example of what cartoonists can do to a president over time. The caricature of Bush has evolved or devolved in some cases, and now we have Bush on a bicycle.
Riding between the two leaders.
7 years later, right. I got here as soon as I could.
The next one from Ahmad Hajjaj, he's actually a Palestinian.
Who I understand works out of London now, and this is a fine example of a cartoonist distilling a large international event like this down to a simple image. And,
yeah, the Palestinian refugees. Ironically, he was one who grew up as a Palestinian refugee in a camp in Jordan.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Mike Keefe is the third one.
Mike is from Denver, and unfortunately for the administration, Dick Cheney decided to have a hard episode at the beginning of the week, at the same week as the Annapolis conference. So Mike made a nice little comparison between the two, where here we have Bush saying, "What the heck, one day of diplomacy, what harm could it do?"
And there's Cheney clutching his heart.
Yeah.
And the third one, fourth one is yours. Uncle Sam there, looking a little beaten up.
I tried to take a slightly longer view on sort of American foreign policy, and here we have Uncle Sam with history or Father Time sitting there trying to continuing to try to teach us. And Uncle Sam is at the board being not particularly good student, writing "Beware of foreign entanglements," which is actually a line that goes back to George Washington.
Ah.
And so it's a very historical cartoon.
Of course, America never learns.
We don't. We're not a particularly good student.
Matt, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rez.
And don't forget, you can see Matt's work at Politico.com. Now pay close attention to this next clip we're about to show you. It depicts what many refer to as an Amy's room. It's actually an optical illusion. An Amy's room is constructed so it looks like it's normal from the front, but really it's in the shape of a trapezoid with the walls slanting and the floor and ceiling all at an incline. And that's it until next time. Do keep sending in your questions and comments and point us to anything interesting or amusing for Street Talk. Remember, what you see here isn't necessarily the view of Al Jazeera, and some of the content's been edited but for time and space reasons only. And that's the talk on the street.